What's going on, everybody? It's Jeff Osuji, CEO of Eventnoire, and you are tuning into the Art of the Party podcast, the podcast for entrepreneurs and people who move people. And today we have a very, very special guest, a boss in the creative space, the marketing world, somebody who's had a lot of experience with live experiences, entrepreneurship, adventurepreneurship, but also somebody that's continuously working and building and helping brands get to the next level. He is the Chief Creative Officer and CEO of Contender, Mr. Robert Clifton Jr. How you doing today, brother?
I'm good.
Hey,
What's up, dog?
Hey,
good to see you. Absolutely.
Man, Rob, how you feeling today, brother?
I feel great, man. It's good to be here.
Hey, man, it took a little while to get you here, man. I appreciate you making the time. I know you're running a full-blown agency by day, working with some of the largest brands in the world. And so appreciate you taking the time to sit back and relax here at Eventnoire. So, Rob, tell us a little bit about yourself and your start, right? I know you as both the CEO and a creative genius that's worked at this intersection of culture and marketing for years, but tell us about your upbringing first. Like, I know that you're from Portsmouth, Virginia, right? Mm-hmm. And how did you, tell us about your upbringing and how you got into advertising and marketing.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for that title of genius. That felt good hearing that. Creatives can be a bit of egomaniacs, so I probably need to take you everywhere I go to do my introductions and talk about me, right? I need a hype man. I need a good hype man, right? Like any other hip hop artist. It's interesting. I had an interesting journey. I believe in destiny, right? And a lot of my life is kind of set up that way, right? Like everything was just meant to be. I grew up in Portsmouth, Virginia. VA, 2 up, 2 down.
Shout out Pharrell, Missy,
all that good stuff.
Folks. Chris Brown.
Actually, Missy grew up in my neighborhood, right? My subdivision, Cavalier Manor. There's a book about Cavalier Manor called Makes Me Want to Holler. That was a bestseller. A guy that grew up in Cavalier Manor wrote a book about our neighborhood. Missy went to school with my brother. Okay.
I gotta ask you. So, like, what's Virginia known for? 'Cause I know some of the famous people you guys have had, but I know even Chris Brown. So many dope people. But what's Virginia known for from a culture perspective?
I think Virginia is known for innovation, right? Disruption, which is kind of. I like to put myself in the list of all those people. When I first came to Chicago, people from Chicago, Chicago's the joint, right? Yeah. I'm like, oh, I'm from Virginia, and they're like, who's from Virginia? And then I start rattling off the names, right? And what I used to do was rattle the names off, Pharrell, Teddy Riley, Missy, Sweet Pea Whitaker, Michael Vick, Bruce Smith. There's a whole bunch of people from Virginia. For a small place, a lot of people come from the Tidewater area, right? Iverson's from my area in Virginia, right? And so I would rattle off those names and I would put Robert Clifton at the end, which would really piss people off because I'm included in that legacy of people who come out into the world and do amazing things. And like I said, it's a small area, Tidewater, but it produces a lot of people who have impact on the culture.
You forget, because even Jigga's like, I used to dribble out of VA. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's a lot of VA references in hip hop in general. So
absolutely. At the end of one of the Tribe Called Quest things, they go through all these places. New York, VA. They end on VA. So we know that VA has a lot of impact on the culture.
Yeah, and that's what I love about the East Coast is you can hit so many different markets. But
absolutely. So, but going back to my life is kind of been destined, right? When I was a kid, I grew up in the projects, right? That's where I started. And so, anybody who grew up in the street, you know how that is, right? That's the hard knock life, right?
I grew up on the north side of Chicago. I ain't grew up in the projects, but I know how it is to struggle because so I like to always tell my people, because being from Chicago, a lot of folks are like, oh, you from the north side? The north side has a couple pockets, all right? Well, especially where I grew up at. But no, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah. But I grew up in Outer Barber, right? Which is a projects, right? And I probably lived there till I was about 8 or 9. And then I moved to what they call Newtown, which is another area. It's the hood, but it ain't, the projects, right? So we were moving up. And then my parents got better jobs, and so we moved to Cavalier Manor. And Cavalier Manor was the place where the black successful people moved to, right? And this was during the 60s. And, when people were getting jobs as mailmen, people were getting jobs as, longshoremen or working at the Ford plant or working in the shipyard, which is where my parents worked. You would move out into other neighborhoods. But what was happening is people were moving into some of the white neighborhoods. You know what the 60s were like. They were burning crosses in people's yards and things of that nature. And this developer, George T. McClain, he set up he pulled some land apart and he started building single family homes with nice yards and all that stuff, and said, if you're black, and it was actually an ad in the paper, said, if you're black and you're successful, move to Cavalier Manor. And all the streets were named after black stars, right? Eckstein, Greenwood, right? We had all these names of, Holiday, right? It's all of these streets that are named after black people. And so that was the neighborhood I grew up in. But, all of those people had grown up in other places. And then for me, I was moving back and forth between these two worlds, right? Because I still had a lot of family back in what you would call the hood. My grandma lived there. She kept me during the summer. So I would actually spend sometimes on a summer day, I spend the day in the hood, and then I would go back to the suburbs, so to speak, in the evening. So I was living this duality, this dual life. But then another thing is I was good at art. I was good at drawing, right from the beginning with the finger painting, with the pudding, all the way to creating art and painting different things. I was one of those kids who had this stuff hanging up in the mall. I would take my mom up there. That's my picture hanging, right? In school, my pictures were hanging.
How old were you when that was happening?
I was like, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way through all of those things. I always had something in the mall, right? When we created our art. And then I was really good at writing. Right, so I was in like honors English, so I could read and tell you what the story was about. And all my teachers loved me when I wrote a story, when I did my book reports. So I was already forming who I was at that time, right? Then additionally, everybody knows this: when you grow up, you're doing the dozens, right? Some people call it jonesing, or the back and forth of joking on each other. That was big in my neighborhood, right? When we rode on the bus, I played football. On the way to the games, people in the back sat and talked about, your head's so big.
Chicago, we call it heating you up or riding you.
Right.
High school,
and making all these exaggerations about people, right, in order to make fun of them. And that's what advertising is to some degree, right? This car's so fast, this food tastes so good. And then what happens to create this this exaggeration that's funny, that draws your attention. And that's what we do for a living, right? We go in a room, here's the product. How do you talk about this product in a way that's funny, that drives somebody's attention? Or how do you look at something and see it a different way so that you can make a comment on it?
I never thought about it like that. That's
right, it's weird, right? So it's almost like I was being groomed to work in advertising all along. And so at some point, I ended up at Hampton University. I was studying marketing, and I was actually looking at a Super Bowl commercial. And so I'm sitting at home and watching a Super Bowl commercial, and it was actually for Porsche. And, I'm a Ferrari guy, right? That's my dream car, right? So I'm always thinking about that. And the commercial opened up, and they actually said, if you were a car, what kind of car would you be? That was it. And he was just looking at a road. And my first reaction was, I'd be a Ferrari. Right? Then the car started going, it was a point of view going down the road. And it was like, you be able to go from 0 to 60 in 5 seconds. It was like, then it was like, you have rack and pinion steering. And it dropped low. Right? Then it was like, you be able to take a curve at 70 miles an hour when the car went around the curve. And then the car spun in. And I'm still thinking Ferrari. And it says, you would be a Porsche 911.
Bam.
And I went, I could do that. I could make up the ideas for commercials. That's what I'm gonna do.
That's dope.
Right? So now I'm at Hampton. I'm studying marketing. I go to see my guidance counselor. The guidance counselor's like, oh, no, you don't work for Burger King and do Burger King commercials. What you got to do is you work for an ad agency. The ad agency does commercials for all these different brands. I'm like, okay. So I'm gonna switch to advertising. We don't have that here. So I transferred from Hampton to Norfolk State, and I'm studying advertising. And it's really simple, right? It's extra credit. You go to see somebody speak, you get 15 points. And this copywriter, Scott Mackey, who worked in Norfolk at an ad agency, he came in to speak to us. And he talked about advertising. But everybody, I guess they hated advertising because they were just studying marketing and accounting, and advertising was kind of a burden for them. They just wanted the points. So as soon as the presentation was over, everybody just filed out of the classroom. And so my man saw everybody just flowing. He's like, y'all got any questions? Everybody just broke. And so my man turned his back and started packing up. When he turned around, I was the only one sitting there. And he looked at me, and I was like, hey, I want to be a copywriter. And he was like, okay. And I was like, so, can I come over? Can I shadow you? Can I see how it works? I'm telling him all this stuff. And he's like, whoa. Yeah, absolutely. We'll stay in touch. You want to help people. He's like, I'm busy. He said, why don't you do this first? Have you read the book Ogilvy on Advertising? And I said, no. He says, go read that book. And then call me. So I called him the next day. And I was like, yo, can I come over and shadow you? He goes, yeah, but go read the book. And I said, I read the book last night. And he was like, what do you mean? I said, I read the book last night. You read the book? I was like, yeah, I already read the book. I stayed up all night reading the book. Can I ask you some questions? And I started asking the questions about the book. Like on page, I think it was like in the middle when they said this, when they said that, and he knew I had read the book. And he was like, you know what, the hell with it, come over tomorrow. And so I went over and I walked around with him all day and I went to meetings with him and I watched him present and he explained everything to me. And then he explained that, you know, it's really hard to get in this business, right? It's like trying to be an actor. He was like, there's like 5 or 6 schools that teach it in the country, and one of them's the Portfolio Center in Atlanta. And then I was like, oh yeah, I read about that in the Oakville and Advertising. It was in the back, it said the Portfolio Center. And then crazy enough, I came home late one night, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was watching cable, and this when cable first came out. I'm dating myself, because it used to just be 3 or 4 channels, right? But now we had cable, and they had CNN, and they had the show called Pinnacle. And Pinnacle would profile people. And they would talk about Jerry Della Femina, who's this guy that came up with like plop, plop, fizz, fizz for Alka-Seltzer. And he was on there and he was talking. And so I'm sitting at 3 o'clock in the morning watching the show, and it's like, oh, this dude's from advertising. So I'm zoned in. And then he says, oh, you should go to the Portfolio Center. So that was 3 times I heard it in 2 days.
That's a college, or is it like a program, or what is it?
It's like DeVry.
Okay.
All they do is they just teach advertising. You don't take any other classes. Teachers come in, they give you assignments. 2 people come up with ideas. And then you show it in front of the whole class. Your teacher gives you feedback on your ideas, but you also see what other people came up with. Like, I didn't think about it that way.
So kind of like a Columbia in Chicago.
Exactly. Like
art school in New York. Not art school, but something like for creative folks.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Absolutely.
I love it.
And so I went to the Portfolio. So I said, oh, I'm going to the Portfolio Center. So I applied. I had job offers when I graduated from Norfolk State. But I went and I applied to the Portfolio Center. And so then I called Scott, and I was like, yo, I'm going to the Portfolio Center. And he's like, yo, you know, a lot of people tell me they want to do this, but they don't follow through. He was like, you read the book, you came over, now you're going to the Portfolio Center. So me and him always stayed in touch.
To follow through,
So I go down, I get down there, I learn a lot of stuff. I run into a guru by the name of Doreen DeVoren. She teaches me how to really write. She's like, you're a great writer, but you would be truly amazing if you buckle down. She taught me how to write advertising. I got a couple of scholarships from Leo Burnett while I was down there. They recruited me up to Chicago. Came up to Chicago. Bang, I'm in the ad industry.
That's an advertising agency, for you guys who know, probably one of the largest in the world. I love it. So Leo Burnett, you worked at Leo Burnett. Okay, love it. I got to stop you there because it's something that's consistent. One, you read that book in overnight, right? So was it just your hunger for knowledge, or more so you're wanting to connect with their mentor there?
No, I think I just go hard, right? I grew up playing sports, right? I ran track, I played basketball, I played football, but I'm a football player, right? And you just got, football, you got to go hard, from the first play, right? It's a game of inches. Every single thing counts, right? And so for me, I just go hard in everything I do. I don't know. It's like a sickness, right? Like I'm very competitive. It doesn't matter if I'm, playing marbles or bowling, right? I try to I probably shouldn't say this, but I try to pass as many cars when I'm on the interstate on my way down. Like, I'm always conscious and competitive in some shape, form, or fashion.
I'm the same way, man. And I love learning for competition as well. And I think in the event space especially, like, I've gotten a lot of inspiration from folks that are doing dope events. And with us being like working in live media and seeing all these dope events and experiences across the Eventnoire platform, I think about like how advertising, I think now in order to stand out in this world of content, you have to be able to immerse yourself in advertising, immerse yourself in creativity. And so that's one of the things I want to talk with you about it as we continue through your journey is for you had this knowledge for, you had this creativity, you had this artistry. You saw there was an opportunity to go get it. You went and got it, got the skill set. But when you approach live experiences, when you approach live media, how do you do it as a creative, as somebody that's able to, clearly skilled, right, in what you do, but what's your approach for live media and events and experiences? Because I've seen event hosts that have put together amazing activation for brands and also put together all this dope creative. And I think now in order to be successful, you have to have great creative, you have to have great concept, and you have to have great execution. So can you talk to me about your approach as we continue to talk about your journey?
So for me, again, another thing, and we do this at Contender, right? It's all about making sure you're connecting things to the culture and you're authentic, right? And so part of it is the brand story has to come through too, because you can have a dope event, but it not actually connect to the brand strategy and the story that they're trying to tell, right? And so then people come and have a great experience, but they don't walk away connecting that back to the brand, right? It's very important that the things that you're doing actually connect to something much more focused on what the brand's trying to tell you, but then also radiates out and connects to the brand. So you create all these tentacles so that that person takes that experience back and it makes them feel something about the brand even after they left the event, right? If they have a memory, it still reminds them of the brand, not just the experience. So I think a big part of it is having people who understand the culture, having people who also understand the brand and can find the right intersection so that those things are, seamless so that you can't think about one without thinking about the other, right? That's very important in the event space.
Definitely. And I think the best way for people to experience your brand is through a live event.
Hey everybody, it's your girl Dream Jordan, and if you know me, you know I love a good function. If you're looking to host or attend a curated event, look no further than Eventnoire, the #1 platform for culture and community. See you there.
So let me pedal back to where we were. So we at the Portfolio Center, right? You did that program. You got a scholarship from the that brought you to Chicago. Talk to us about your journey from going through becoming an advertising professional to launching your own agency.
So maybe I don't know if you call it luck. And maybe luck is, when opportunity meets preparation. But when I came into the business, I ended up getting paired with a art director, copywriter and art director work together by the name of Gary Vallone. He also happened to be an athlete. So that made us really hungry as a team, right? And when you're young, they give you small assignments to do, right? They let you design, like a greeting card to the client, right? They let you design the Kool-Aid package. You design the little tchotchkes, right? They don't give you the meaty assignments. But what we did is we always over-delivered on those assignments, right? To the point where our boss used to say to us, like, guys, I don't need to see 10 different Kool-Aid packet designs, right? Just do 2. Nobody cares about this. But we went really hard. So at some point, they put us on assignment, and it was actually our first year to work on Nintendo, and we were supposed to do a commercial for Mario, and it was supposed to feature Mario. All the kids love Mario. But we discovered that there's actually this character that nobody knew about that was way in the back of this little booklet called Wario. And he was the evil version of Mario. But nobody was talking about it. So we decided to bring that forward into the meeting. And actually people were like, who the hell is Wario? Like, where'd that come from? But because we were digging through this little booklet, it was just something in the back that nobody was talking about. It was almost like a Easter egg that the gaming people were just playing around with the idea that there would be an evil Mario. We created a commercial, and it ended up becoming a hit. Everybody started talking about Wario. They went on to not only put him in games, but also make backpacks and pencils and toys and things of that nature. And that really kicked my career off, right? Because we went from being like, oh, those just the young guys to those are the guys that brought Wario to the table. And those are the guys that we just kept doing all the Wario commercials. So that kind of gave us a bit of fame. And then I believe the second thing we did, which was one of the first things where hip hop made it into what you would call the mainstream and being something that a Fortune 50, Fortune 500 company was using. We did a spot for Zelda where we actually did a music video.
You're taking me back.
And it was hip hop. I penned a rap song about playing Zelda.
That's dope.
And then we went and instead of using the normal directors, we went and found Marcus Rayboy, who was a famous music video director, did a lot of stuff with Mary J. Blige and Wu-Tang and Run DMC. we went out, we went and did that kind of disruption. We said, we want to use this guy because he shoots music videos. He's a young kid. He came in and shot us a music video that looked like the music videos that were playing on. Yes, that was playing. That was actually playing on, MTV and 106 and Park. And so when kids saw it, it looked legitimate. Right, and then that put Nintendo into the spotlight, right? And then that was us using hip hop, which nobody had really done in that way. There was a few people dabbling in it, but it was one of the first big spots. And again, that kicked off our career because that made us, these are the disruptors. They're using people using the people from the culture to actually create the work, which is something that we try to do at Contender, right? Find the people that are actually making the culture, and then have them come in so everything's authentic.
I love it. And what we find is that because culture is a global phenomenon, you talk about hip hop culture, black culture, etc. When you're able to integrate that, I've seen how that's been integrated to other video games, whether it's NBA Live, 2K, and how those soundtracks have played a pivotal role in elevating those brands. So that's a wonderful thing, man. So when did you get the idea to start your own agency, number one, and talk to us about some of the other brands that you've collaborated with that you're proud about?
So early on in my career, again, when I started at Leo Burnett, there were, I think it was 400 creatives, and only 3 of those creatives were black people. Right, and so you can imagine the challenges in a space like that, right? When you're in a space where there's not that many people who look like you, but it's also an advantage, right? Because you know things that people don't know. You have access to information, which again is, how Contender's built, right? With people from, of, and for the culture who are not just looking at it from the outside, who are actually living it every day, creating a culture, and that's from being in the club to being in a barbershop to,
I try to tell my being in the club is a cultural experience. It's a learning experience. That's how I learned whose songs is popping. So anyway, go back. So actually living the life and being the person, you have a more authentic experience, and you can engage, and you have privileged information there. And so I was using that in my career. My work was standing out because I was tapping into the culture. You just gave me a bar. First of all, cultural insights and being in and surrounded and welcomed into the culture is truly privileged information.
It's absolutely a privilege, and it puts you at an advantage. And having entities like Contender or entities like Eventnoire is a client's getting closer to the culture and being close to the people who can get them close to the people who influence the people who influence the people, right? And so as I was working in advertising and I was coming along and I was making my way, it occurred to me as hip hop was getting bigger and it was being more powerful, it's influencing fashion. It's of course it's influencing music, but it's influencing, Hollywood. It's influencing technology. It influences everything in reality. And so I was looking and I was saying, well, I kind of know this thing better than most of the people that are in the rooms I'm in. There's going to come a day when clients are going to need somebody who's close to this and has that privileged information, but then also knows how to convert it into powerful messaging that drives their business. Bam. And so I started thinking right then, what would that agency look like? And so then throughout my career, I was jumping back and forth between multicultural agencies. I was at Leo Burnett, then I was at Burrell, then I was at McCann, then I was at, Common Ground. So we had all these different things where I was bouncing back and forth to both sides. Again, the duality of my life, right? And so I'm seeing both of them, and then that's telling me, okay, so what's the perfect agency? So I'm basically writing on napkins. Oh, I like these tools they have over here at this big giant agency. But I like the way these people move over here that's from the culture and how they get their information. What if I put those things together, right? What if I get people like me and you who've been through the world, but then like me and you also been in the biggest boardrooms with some of the biggest companies and biggest brands to understand how they move. If you mesh those things together, you come up with something special.
100%.
So then I said, one day I'm gonna start an agency like that. Again, I would meet with smart people. They would, we would go back and forth, writing it all down. And then I would say probably around 2016, 2018, it's like, okay, now I'm going to actually put it down on paper and start developing what I'm going to do. And then you roll around to call it 2020, 2021. The whole world is recognizing the power the demographics are shifting in America. It's like it's time to go, right? It's time. Everybody's looking for it. It's time to build it. Yep. So technically, it was almost in my back pocket the whole time. And so I met Dr. Christian May Stewart. I'm taking classes at the community college to try to get doctor in front of my name because she gets to say doctor, I don't. And we had some of the same ideas about building a perfect agency. She happened to, she's a African-American woman. She grew up on the south side of Chicago.
U of I, right? Solana?
Right. She went to the U of I, but she still lives on the south side of Chicago, right? But she's in boardrooms, she's on boards, but then she's still living, where we come from, right? So she has that unique experience as well. And then we started talking. We had some of the same ideas. Strategy's big. Is where you start on what to say. Creative is how to say it. I'm like, I found a perfect partner here to help me build Contender. And then we set up Contender. And one of the things at Contender that we love is creating an equal exchange. And I say that to mean we're here to help brands find ways to grow their business by tapping into the most valuable resource on the planet, which is Black culture, right?
As I say, black is the new green, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And so what we wanted to do is how do we create an equal exchange where the brand wins, but also the people who create the culture win. Yep. So when you engage these consumers, it's not the same old rehash strategies and rehash approaches and messaging. Yeah. There's a whole world out there. We try and expand the storytelling universe. Yep. So what we want to do is create things, messaging that kids see that inspire them, where people see themselves, tell the real story of our people. So we wanted to create that equal exchange where the consumer gets as much out of it as the brand does.
So important. And that speaks to our journey and our story with creating Eventnoire. We would go to these event platforms and, we know that the biggest and loudest events were of the culture, but it was hard to find them, right? And it's hard to find your people when you can get lost in the sauce. And realize, who can tell the story of where to go and direct people to places for us than us. So kudos to you.
I would say this. I would say that the way Eventnoire is putting together culture, creativity, and community is literally what we're doing just in a different space, right? Like I would argue that, in reality, you're probably, one of the most powerful media platforms that exists.
Now, there's a lot coming from you, brother.
But what we got to do is we got to connect people like us to the hip hop artists, to the people in fashion, to the people in sports, and pull all that together so that we're working together so we create partnerships that then brands can tap into. And once they see the power of that, then people will see what not our true power, but our true value is, which totally changes the equation and again creates that equal equation of the people who are creating the culture, who are influencing advertising, who are influencing business, that we have the proper, access to access the media, access to the dollars to help the brands grow their business.
And we were just talking to Dame Dash about that Tuesday, about the power of collaborative economics, right? And I was talking to shout out to my brother Kay Bachi and Hezo out in Atlanta. We were just talking about really uniting different event organizers, brand marketers to figure out how we can add more value to these brand partners, right? So you're speaking my language in terms of just the collaborative opportunities that exist when we bring culture and our intelligence together. And this leads me to my next question, because you've accomplished something that many people have not been able to do, right? Clearly, you're amazing at pitching brands, and so many event hosts are pitching brands every single day to try to get sponsorships, right? So, but you've also were able to get investment from Publicis, right? Which is one of the largest agencies in the world. They just bought Influential. So, talk to us about your approach to pitching brands, because transparently, you actually did a pitch for a project that we were working on, and it was one of the best things I've ever seen before. And so many of the event hosts I talk to are like, man, I'm trying to pitch a brand on a sponsorship for my next event, but I have no idea how to do it. And we just did a sponsorship summit about this. So I want to ask you, what's your approach to pitching brands and your success there? What's your advice for young entrepreneurs who are doing events?
I think one of the main things you got to do is get into some of the data, right? At Contender, right, we take the power of data and we multiply it times the influence of culture, right? Because everybody needs data as proof, right? You know, people say things like, you know, you could say, oh, people like to have fun. People like, where you get that from? Mm-hmm. Like, you know, that's true, but people want to see data. Mm-hmm. And so when you take data and then you can take the influence of culture, like what we do is we overlay them and read between the lines and truly understand what's happening in the world. Because sometimes the data can mislead you, right? Like, numbers don't lie, but they don't tell the whole truth either, right? And so when you take those two and you put them together, that's what you need to do for the client. You got to say to the client, here's the thing that's happening, and have data. And then here's what I know about the culture, and I can help grow it. And then you're also telling the data what the results are going to be. Because, you know, the brand is here because they're doing business, right? And so you have to connect those two. You have to connect the power of what you're doing, what the culture can do, to how it's going to drive their business, right? And sometimes I think, you know, you can leave a gap there where you want them to put 2 and 2 together. You got to put it together. 2 and 2 is 4 versus here's 2 and here's 2. And then you leave them. You got to actually close the loop for them and explain it to them. Because sometimes, you know, me and you have a shorthand about the culture. The people who are not from the culture, they don't know, right? You know, it's like when somebody's listening to a song and singing, you know, a hit rap song, they don't even know what the song's saying, right? You're like, you do know what they're saying, right?
You just did, right?
Yeah, you don't know what you just said because you don't understand the references.
You just did a drill, right? No,
exactly.
No, I love it. And that makes, I mean, cut you off.
No, I was going to say that's the important part. I think the important part for when you're pitching a brand is helping them understand what you know that they don't know. A lot of people don't know what they don't know, right? If you can explain to them what they don't know, you get a long way, and then you gain their trust, right? And then, of course, results help. Like, you know, at Contender, we're big on, you know, we've had work. We just did a thing for Cheez-It, broke all kinds of records and testing, sales records you're trying to create. You bring that information as well. Like when you do an event, you want to come with what were the results, right? Because the results speak for themselves. And so we're all about that. You know, we win awards for creativity, but we also can show that we drove the client's business, that we drove sentiment for the brand. You can actually, one of the things I love to do and love about all the work we create is that you can go on social and see people talking. And, you know, those people are not, you know, this is not like where you're asking somebody a question in a focus group where you're paying them. This is just people who saw something and took to, you know, to X, they took to Instagram. I want to say I just saw, you know, like when we did the thing for Love Jones. We did a thing for Walmart where for Christmas we finished the story of Love Jones. If you remember, Lorenz Tate and Neil Long, they were just standing in the rain at the end of that movie, right? And that's a classic movie about, you know, black love, amazing story. They never did the second part. So we did a spot where the doorbell, you know, the doorbell rings, the door opens, and it's Nia Long. And you're like, oh, okay, so it's Nia Long. And she takes her box inside, and then out comes Lorenz Tate. Oh, shit, they still together.
Love it.
And they got a kid, right? Oh, and then, the culture went crazy. The people, did you see this commercial from Walmart? Oh, Walmart, I see you got the right people in the room, right? Oh, Walmart, you down with us. Oh, are we getting Love Jones too? That started all kinds of conversations. And as you see, they just did another spot. They just did another movie together that's coming out soon, right? Then we're actually creating culture, right? Something we're doing in advertising is changing the conversation on social, which is then driving some of what people are talking about doing in Hollywood. And so that's when you're really getting into the power of, again, giving back to the culture.
What's going on, guys? It's Jeff Osuji, CEO of Eventnoire, tastemaker, event influencer, event marketer. It's the Art of the Party Season 2, and I want to give a shout out to my partners over at Pronghorn. If you're sipping, relaxing, chilling, there's over 30 portfolio spirits that they have that you can sip on. Everything from Amazoner, Bayap Gin, Sango Agave, just amazing spirits, distilled, super smooth that you can check out for us by us. So make sure you check them out at pronghorn.co or visit your local liquor store and ask for a brand for Pronghorn. Peace. And you talk about effective marketing. All effective marketing is about driving conversations, igniting conversations about your brand. So whether it's a brand, whether it's your experience, whether it's your event, you want people talking about it, right? And getting that word of mouth. And so it sounds like to me, what you've been able to master and really do is create these conversations based upon cultural knowledge and intelligence and insights that you have to be able to kind of mix in the right gumbo of the combination of talent, combination of visuals,
music,
combination of music, right, and concepts and bring them to life. And so that's something that's rare, but it's also something that's hard, but it's something I think is more important than ever before. One thing that we were talking about with Barclays just the other day was that the new media is live media, which is events and experiences, because it's one of the best ways for people to feel your brand. And so for all those folks out there who are hosting events, I think now more than ever, there's more content than ever before with AI, right? There's more TV shows, Netflix specials. There are so much other things people can do than attend your event that if you want to sell your event out, you have to be extremely creative. This is my hypothesis, because I'm seeing the creative that people are doing for their events. It's no longer a flyer. Back then we used to do a dope flyer, bam, you good. Now you got to do a flyer. You got to do a carousel post. You have to have a whole content strategy for your events. So you've done content at the highest levels. What's your approach to establishing a content strategy for a brand, and get any tips you can give those folks who are like, man, I got a July 4th event. I need to really stand out. What can I do to approach this event differently from a creative perspective to get people talking about it? What's your approach when you're really pushing forward with your creative genius to create a content strategy?
Well, what we try to do is also look at what's going on in the moment, right? Mm-hmm. It's hard. But in reality, and I say this, and I've had clients challenge me, we have real-time intel. Mm-hmm. People are like, what's that mean? Because a lot of you look at some of the entities out there and they do research and they do reports, and then they give that to the clients, and then the clients start talking about what's happening. We know how culture moves.
Fast.
It's changing every day. Mm-hmm. By the time they get it, you know, it's like, oh, the newscaster saying it on TV. Mm-hmm. No, the kids are not saying it in the street anymore, right? Yep. There's a flow to the culture. Mm-hmm. But again, having people at Contender who are, in the street every day and in all of the places and spaces, and being the people who are making the culture, we're getting real-time intel. And so I think what you want to do is connect to real things. Yep. After you connect to real-time, like what's going on right now? Mm-hmm. And also making it kinetic. So it's not just about what you're doing. How does that fit into something else that's going on? And then having layers to layers to what's happening. Like for example, we did a thing with Boys to Men, right? Mm-hmm. For Walmart to promote black owned products. Mm-hmm. And it came off the idea that all these kids were posting on Instagram, I want a 90s R&B kind of love. Mm-hmm. When they had pianos out in the desert and you were singing how much you love this person, right? Because they're saying love is frivolous these days. Yep. So then when we started talking about the love of black-led products, we wanted a 90s R&B kind. Mm-hmm. So we went and got Boys to Men. Wanye has kids. They all sing. They have a thing called One More. They have a group called One More. We put them together to challenge what the young kids think about singing for love and what Boys to Men sing about love, to talk about the love of black-led products. So you see there, that's pure in talking about the love of black-led products, the messaging, but it's connecting to something that's being talked about right now, which is what kind of love exists in the world now. We wish we had 90s R&B love. We gave them 90s R&B love with what it kind of love the young kids think right now. Now that thing has tentacles. I would say the same thing for your events. At another agency, I had done a thing with 50 Cent and Stars for Power. Yeah. Right? We were doing F and vodka, and they wanted to get that into the community and get people to try F and vodka. So, the Club Truth that Ghost has, we recreated a life-size version of Truth. Dope. Right? And then we set up where all the drinks were named after the different characters, and it was to scale. Dope. It had Ghost Office, right? It had all the stuff, and then people came into a space, and we moved it around to 7 or 8 cities, and Power was on. Power was on at the time, and people wanted to live the life of Power, right? So then we had this activation. It's connected to a TV show that you're looking at all the time. You wish you could live a night in Power, in Truth. And then it's crazy because usually clients are trying to get people to come to their events. We were opening the invitations for you to click in. it was selling out in like 20 minutes.
Yep.
And then the client had stars calling them, the basketball players coming, listen, how I get in, right? The rappers calling how I get in. The clients are like, these people are lining up trying to get into our event. And then they're in front of the step and repeat, taking pictures with effing 50 Cents there. We had Rotimi there, right? They're coming out to holler at them. We created a whole ecosystem, but it was really, you would think of it as an event, but it was actually an ecosystem that was going to connect to the next episode that came out, your favorite episode that happened, your favorite character on the show. We created a whole ecosystem. I think when you're going to create an event, it should be an ecosystem. It should line up to an ideal, my man trying to get out of the game so he can do his club. To, you know, people coming together and having a good time. There's so many notions and levels in that activation that speak to you as a person and different ways for you to connect. That creates, again, a moment in culture. You're actually creating a cultural artifact. You're creating a memory. And you're creating something that's living on for somebody right now going, oh man, I remember when I went to the power joint. That thing was hot. That was effing. I remember I had a drink that had effing, and you know, and it had vermouth, and it had, you know, bitters in it. I'm gonna make that tonight.
It's the only type of situation in medium that he has pre-promotion, on-site activation and promotions, and then post-promotion. Because nowadays you're capturing content that now can live forever. So you can help people relive the experiences. That's why I say every brand, every person that wants to build a business has got to host events. Because it's the opportunity to tell your story. It's an opportunity for you to have what I call a startup. You have an idea, you put an event together, you find a space, you design it, you invite the people. All of those are multiple touch points that allow people to create meaningful experiences that last forever. And that's why I love events. I say they're the infrastructure of community. But if you look at a lot of major companies, media companies, if you look at BET Awards, Soul Train Awards, you look at Revolt, and they have the event in Atlanta that they do. You look at Earn Your Leisure, and they have Invest Fest, Essence Fest. Every major Black organization has a staple event because it's the infrastructure of community and the best way to build a brand. So if you're a person out there that has a brand, if you've never hosted an event, make sure you host it. Of course, host on Eventnoire. But if you're also an event organizer, listen to these gems that Robert's telling you, because it's an opportunity to create an experience outside of just an event that brands will eventually want to be a part of if they don't already.
It's also a chance for you to connect to your consumers in a real way, right? Like authentic, right? We understand that business is a transaction, 100%. Right? But it should be much more. You don't want to come in as a sponsor and leave as a sponsor, right? Maybe when I come, I think you're a sponsor, but when I leave, I should think that brand is down with us, right? That brand understands me. That brand obviously has somebody in the room who gets me because they did all the right things. I felt it, and there was an equal exchange. So I know that you're just not here to get $1. You're here to establish a relationship. And those are the brands that people love. Those are the brands that people stick with. That's how you create some equity with, again, the people who are influencing the people who are influencing the people. And that's at the core. That's where you want to start. So I would argue that a lot of brands are missing the true power here in what exists. And we know that, you know, business is driven by advertising, right? And advertising is driven by culture and fashion and music and art. And all of that is driven by the culture, Black culture. And so to ignore that isn't, you know, it's a bit insane, right? But a lot of brands are being smarter, right? I work with Walmart. We work with Kellogg's, right? We work with Simply Spiked. We're working with Stellantis. We're working with Stellantis, which is Dodge, Jeep, Ram. And so we're out here helping brands figure this game out, and we're paying dividends. They're seeing it, and the more that happens, the more people come to us and make us part of their mix of agencies that they're using for the expertise that we bring and the connection that we have, and the more we can then look to people like you as media outlets of, okay, now that you got the messaging, now that you got the authentic connection, here's how you get to media that gets to the heart of it, and then that just, you know, creates the whole thing full circle.
It's an amazing opportunity. You got to have the to your point, the cultural artifacts. You got to have the distribution. You got to have those creative ideas and concepts. Guys, if you're hosting an event nowadays, I think it's harder than ever to sell out. People are being way more price conscious than ever before, but they're spending, but but they're being conscious about where they're spending it. So in order for you to cut through the clutter, and this is something I'm doing as well in my events experiences. I had an event in February. We spent $5,000 on creative, right? And I used to have events and parties. I spent $50 on a flight, and I realize now you need rollouts. You need and so talk to me about the price of managing the rising costs of being a creative, right? And how you're being efficient leveraging AI, right? Because that's something that I'm playing around with now. Is like, how can I do some more reels and actually create motion pictures behind my events? How are you leveraging AI within your business as a creative?
So AI, for me personally, is about scale, right? It allows you to do more faster. I personally don't see AI as the way to create, right? Right? I think that is for people because there's an energy, right? Like when I paint something and then you see it, you're not there to see me paint it, but whatever energy I put into it comes out of it, right? So we use AI less in the sense of creating strategy or creating ideas. What we use it to do is to maybe version out, to deliver on the vision faster, to bring things together faster or duplicate more so than using it at the core things. And I think that's a big difference, right? Some people are starting to default to having machines make things and conceptualize things. And I may be wrong here, but I don't think I am. I'm going to be Charles Barkley. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. In that doesn't have the same energy and feeling that you get from something created by another person.
100%.
Right? And so when we use it, it's more about scale, it's more about moving faster from the idea that we have to producing it than it is in using AI to come up with ideas. Because technically, AI is not in the barbershop. AI is not hanging around, it's not around the kitchen table. AI is not in the places it would need to be to fully understand this fast moving culture. Where you want to be is in, my son's in his bedroom creating something. Him and his friends are making hoodies. They're deciding how clothes will fit soon. They are making music. They are coming up with their concept and ideas, and they are not only are they making new things, like I said before, they're looking at one of the 90s R&B kind of love. So all of these things are happening. That's where you want to be, is like people who are from the culture, for the culture, of the culture, who are got hands-on experience to then take those things and figure out what's coming next and make things that contribute to the culture and actually drive your brand.
I love it. And this is a question that we ask everybody as we close out. What's your favorite event or experience you have been to?
Favorite experience or event you have been to? I don't know if I have a favorite experience. I would say that that the Truth event was pretty powerful, of just the amount of star power that flocked to it, and the people that were able to experience that and see all the people was amazing. We also did a lot of stuff with Courvoisier. I was part of the team that created the Honor Your Code campaign, which was huge because it just looked at black men and talked about the codes that they honor and how they give back to their community and how they communicate with each other. Like, don't forget where you came from. Then there's some like party till you puke, right? And it was just, we like to do work on a continuum, right? There's a fun part of the codes that you follow, and there's the codes that are, very noble. And in that, we went from city to city, and we actually tapped into the code of the city. Because people from Detroit, they have a certain code. People from Chicago have a certain code. People from Virginia, and they're unique. And somebody go, you sound like you're from Virginia, right? You sound like you're from Atlanta. And so all of those events were themed in a way that you felt like you knew this was an Atlanta event, and the people from Atlanta was like, oh, I see you got the right music playing. I see the codes that you wrote on the wall. That's what my uncle used to tell me. I love it. But I've been to Virginia. I've heard Virginia people say that code. And so we had these codes that brought things to life. And like I said, we brought artists from the area into play. So it was really, again, that event felt like it was genuine, and again, that you really understood that area when you came to the event. You know, when I think about my favorite things, I guess, you know, this skips back a bit in a different kind of piece of live media. But, you know, I think I said this earlier, but I was part of the team that created the Edward Scissorhands commercial, right, for the Super Bowl. And that, you know, broke the internet, right? Had Timothée Chalamet in it. You know, he was playing Edward Scissorhands' son. He had these big hands, so he couldn't drive. And then Cadillac had a car that was hands-free. And so that was the whole point of the commercial. It ran on the Super Bowl. You know, it was one of the most popular commercials on the Super Bowl. Vogue picked it up. You know, everybody was talking about it because it had Timothée Chalamet as well.
That was from your favorite idea. I love that stuff.
And so that was amazing. That kind of was an event because it happened during the Super Bowl. You released it. Everybody knew Timothée Chalamet was going to be in something. There was all these things around it. So that was kind of a live media event. And then the whole world's watching Super Bowl at the same time, and they viewed it, right?
Connected experiences.
Connected experience. But one of my favorite things is another thing that we did for Walmart, which is the League of Black and Unlimited Dads. And that was something we did for Father's Day.
Love it.
And it came off of some research, and Oprah talked about this, which showed that Black dads are, you know, super involved with their kids, hands-on, right? And helping them with their homework and teaching them and spending time with them. And, you know, that flies in the face of the stereotype. And we all know, right? I know what how my dad was involved in my life. I strive to be an amazing dad. I got friends who are amazing dads, right? Nobody ever really talks about it, though. And so what we did is we created this 4-minute piece. And it was an animated thing that showed these dads who were doing different things, and they dropped everything to come and help their kids. And it was animated by Martian Bluebird, who animated the Boondocks. So that, again, that's us tapping into the culture. We went and found the animators who did the Boondocks. And then we went and found some hip-hop artists to make the music. And we put together this 4-minute piece that celebrated Black dads coming to the rescue. And then we had influencers who were Black dad influencers talking about I would be in the League of Black and Unlimited Dads, talking about how they behave. There's a show, I think it's called The Fellas on BET. They sat around and talked about it. We went down to the American Black Film Festival and had a panel with Hollywood stars and the animator from the show and the client sitting on the stage talking about Black dads, showed the film, right? So it was a film, we had a coloring book, right? We had all these things again that created all these tentacles. And then everybody just appreciated the fact that we was loving on Black dads like that, right? And speaking the truth of most of our experiences with our dads and with our kids. And, you know, that was super powerful for me, and it's one of my favorite things because my mom, like, I've done all of these spots. I've done, you know, $1 million spots. I've done stuff for the World Cup, right? I've done all of these big ads. That was the one that my mom called me and said, hey, I like that, right? And you know, you get that from your mom. You get that kind of love from your mom. That's like, I could die now, right? I made my mom like proud for real, right? She's like, oh my God, 4 minutes, animated piece. Everybody's talking about it on social. People are coming up to me, which is great. Hey, did you see the thing from Walmart about the Black dads?
I love it.
Right? And then my mom goes, oh yeah, my son did that. What?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, my son put that out into the world, right? So I think teaming up with, you know, people like you, teaming up with people like us that are from the culture and creating these artifacts and these things that are showing the value, again, of Black culture, which I believe is the most valuable resource on this planet, and showing how to bring value to that, and then again benefit the people who are making the culture is, you know, what we're about. And, you know, I don't know if you get to talk about your legacy, but if there's one thing I would want to be known for doing, it would be that. That's the most powerful thing, and that's why we started Contender, and that's what I'm most proud of about Contender, is that we're creating things that brands use to drive their business, but also things that the culture look and go, yes, that the celebrities are on social clicking and saying, I saw that joint. That's hot. Right? Because you do really, you really are a part of the culture.
100%. And you creating these, what you call cultural artifacts and gems. Not only are you educating brands, but you're educating our audience about how to do high-level work that speaks volumes, transcends time, and moves culture. And that's what the Party Podcast is all about. That's what Eventnoire is about. People who move people create amazing experiences. So, Rob, I want to thank you so much for coming in today, man, speaking to our people. If you're hosting an event, make sure you host on Eventnoire. Rob, I want to understand, how can people get in touch with you? If they want to talk to you more about partnerships, talk about more collaborations, pick your brain more about, creative genius, especially in the media and creative space.
So you can check us out at teamcontender.com. That's our website. A lot of good work up there, and it gives you a little bit of background about us. You can also follow us on Instagram at teamcontender _. If you're a brand that's out there that wants to figure out how to tap into the people who influence the people who influence the people, you can reach us at info@teamcontender.com.
So, Rob, I can't even thank you enough for coming through today, man. I've seen some of the creative and amazing work that you do, and also you're a boss in the industry. And so I just want to salute to you, because as an entrepreneur myself, I know how hard it is, right? Also, working in this industry, which there's in a lot of diversity, I know how hard it is to be a leader. And you've also came and showed up. You came to the Curator Summit, so you've already supported me in more ways than one. So I'm excited about collaborations. I'm also excited about seeing amazing work you continue to do, and also about all the event hosts and entrepreneurs who are inspired, man. Let's keep building. Let's keep creating great experiences. And as always, host your next event on eventnoire.com. Sip Edmonds when you can, and tune in to Art of Party Podcast. Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for being here, man.
Appreciate you, brother.